Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to another edition of NoDQ&A video. This is episode number 402 right here on NoDQ.com and the YouTube channel. Got your questions here from spring.me/AaronRift. So let's get started with the first one today from Wraith Wolf 007. Who would you like to see make a surprise entrance at the Royal Rumble? Also, how many spots should be allocated to new or nostalgic entrants? I would definitely like to see some surprise returns at the Royal Rumble and maybe have 2 or 3 names from the past return, and then maybe have 2 or 3 NXT rookies come in and be part of the Rumble, and hopefully have those NXT guys make future appearances after the Raw. No repeat of Bo Dallas where he appears for one shot and then he's gone again. As far as past names returning to the Rumble, I would love to see Jake Roberts make an appearance. He's been lobbying for it over the past year now, and I think he has been doing really well for himself, and I think he should be rewarded. I think WWE should give him the spot in the Royal Rumble and let him tell that feel-good story, you know, coming back full swing and having one last run, even if it's just at the Royal Rumble. And that's the thing about the Rumble. You can bring back names from the past and have them be involved, and it's just in a small role. They don't have to be a full-time performer again, and they can come out and get that one big nostalgic pop. So why not? Why not bring back Jake Roberts? I'd even love to see Scott Hall in there as well. Scott Hall, DDP, any of those guys. You know, something different. You know, I don't really want to see the same old Sergeant Slaughter, Jim Duggan entrance in the Rumble. You know, maybe a couple big stars you could bring back for one night only, too. I mean, it all depends. But that's part of the appeal of the Royal Rumble, I think, is the unpredictability and not knowing exactly what's going to happen and getting those surprises. Certainly, when Chris Jericho appeared at last year's Rumble, that was a huge shock to everybody. And, you know, that was an awesome moment. So I hope they can deliver something like that similar for this year's Royal Rumble. All right, this one comes from MMA Mike Zero. Is every match the biggest match in WWE history according to Jerry Lawler? Well, it's not just Jerry Lawler saying that. It's Vince McMahon and the guys behind the scenes feeding him the lines, and they're telling him to go out there and put over whatever match is going on as the biggest match of all time. It's just typical marketing in WWE, and they've been doing that for decades. And it's not just WWE, too. I mean, every major wrestling promotion has used that tactic. Going back to, like, say, WCW, Tony Schiavone, almost every pay-per-view he would say, like, this is the greatest night in the history of our sport. And he would do it time after time. And, yeah, after a while, he lost some of his credibility. But, you know, they're just lines that the announcers are being fed, and they're told to go out there and make a big deal out of the match and act like it's the biggest match of all time. So you can't really fault Jerry Lawler all that much. He's just doing his job. This one comes from Kayfabe Candy S. Why does WWE like to exaggerate numbers? Like if 96,000, or excuse me, if 69,000 people go to WrestleMania, they'll be like, oh my God, 82,972 people at WrestleMania. Isn't 69,000 the shoot number still kind of a lot? WWE, just like what they do in the previous question, WWE is trying to promote and they're trying to make a big deal of whatever is going on as much as possible. And as far as the attendance numbers, they can get away with it. They've been doing this for decades where they exaggerate the attendance numbers. And, you know, the 93,000 from WrestleMania 3, the promoter there said that they only drew about 78,000, but WWE made up that fictitious number, and you know, people at home are watching, they see this giant crowd. WWE can make up whatever number they want and try to say that they broke an all-time attendance record. So it's just a gimmick that WWE does, and they're able to get away with it for the most part, and people buy into it. So, you know, more power to them. That's all part of the WWE marketing machine. All right, this one comes from K287. Hey Aaron, 2 questions. What was your opinion on the NWO as far as size? As they grew and grew, I thought it got kind of out of hand. Secondly, if you were going to put together a faction, what is your ideal group size? I'd say 4 or 5 people. The NWO absolutely got watered down when they started bringing in too many people into the group. Now, I understand the idea behind it. Originally, the NWO was going to be its own separate organization, and they were going to have their own television show completely separate from WCW with its own roster. Bischoff actually had that idea of doing what WWE ended up doing as the brand extension with WCW and the NWO, was two separate shows with different rosters. I understood why they brought in all those guys into the NWO in the storyline, but once it was clear they were not going to go in that direction, they should have trimmed the fat like much sooner than they did. Finally, I think in 1999, they started getting rid of the NWO team, but it was too little too late by then. The NWO had already lost its value and had been greatly watered down. And certainly when they brought in guys like Horace Hogan, I mean, that was the beginning of the end for the NWO. And as far as an ideal group size, I mean, 4 or 5 people is really the best way to go. It just depends on the faction. I mean, the Shield only has 3 guys, and they're a tremendous faction. So, it doesn't really matter. But I think more than 5 is certainly pushing it. When you can't remember all the guys in the faction, you have too many people in it. All right, this one comes from Wrong Head. Hey, Aaron, I read on NoDQ that WWE is possibly considering making Smackdown a live broadcast. If this was to happen, do you think that it would be a benefit to the brand and could be a good way to go back to the brand extension? I don't think that SmackDown becoming a live show is going to make any difference in terms of bringing back the brand extension or being a good way to bring it back. I do think that it's a good idea to have SmackDown on a different night other than Friday. I've talked about this before. Friday night is not a good night to have a wrestling show because a lot of people go out and do things on Friday night. It's their night off when they finish the work week and they just want to go out and do something. People don't want to be sitting at home watching television on Friday nights. So SmackDown, I think if they did it on Tuesday, which would most likely be the scenario if this in fact goes through, they would have SmackDown tapings on Tuesday like they always do, except it would be a live show. And I honestly don't think that being live makes any difference from being taped in terms of the ratings. People try to say that the spoilers make a difference, and they really don't. The times that Raw has been a taped show, the ratings have stayed pretty much at the same level, and when SmackDown's been a live show in the past, it didn't really make that much of a difference. I mean, people tend to overestimate the impact of spoilers. I think that definitely Tuesday night's live show. I mean, certainly from an entertainment standpoint, a live show is more exciting to watch than a tape show. So, I mean, that's a positive for the fans watching that know whether it's a live or tape show. And just being on Tuesday night, I think, is a better night as well. So, and I think it would be a good move if WWE is able to make it happen. All right, this one comes from Nick Russell 96. Do you think that WWE should or will bring back the Hardcore Championship? I, for one, would like to see this title come back. Please answer in video if possible. Thanks. Honestly, I don't really think it's a good idea to bring back the Hardcore title. I think that if you're going to have another championship, I think you should introduce a new title and do something completely different, and rather than going back to the past. And talked about this before with the whole PG thing. Having a hardcore title in a PG environment, every match is going to be a kendo stick match? I mean, there doesn't seem like there's a whole lot they can do. I mean, the hardcore match was most entertaining when Crash Holly was a champion. They were doing that 24/7 gimmick, but you can't do that as a full-time thing in the long term. So if it was my call, I would not bring back the title. I don't think it's a good idea. All right, that'll do it for this edition of No DQ&A Video. Thank you for checking out the video today. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe if you haven't already, and check out the NoDQ.com year-end awards. All the videos and polls are up now, and I've made a playlist. I'll put a link to the playlist on the video, so you can check out all the videos if you're one of those people that likes to watch everything in one sequence. With the playlist, you can just start with the first video, and it'll automatically go through each video so you can watch everything in one happy session. Now, before I sign off, I got one more question here from Powers Poor. Hey, Aaron, love the show. Long-time viewer, first-time asker. Do you think that TNA dropped the ball with Cowboy James Storm? I feel like he should have gotten at least a 3 to 6 month title run. I think he's one of the best wrestlers in TNA. Please answer in video. While I've never been the biggest fan of that Cowboy James Storm gimmick, I just think that a stereotypical redneck character isn't something that's going to appeal to most of the United States, maybe to the South and the middle of the country, but to people in Los Angeles and New York, I don't think that that character really appeals to those people. But with that being said, I do think that they dropped the ball with him to some degree, with how they booked the storyline between him and Bobby Roode. Bobby Roode beat him for the title, hit him with the beer bottle. And then they had the big rematch at Lockdown, and that was in James Storm's hometown in his territory in Tennessee. And they had him lose. And I thought that just killed any momentum that he had at that point. They were telling that story that he was going to come into his hometown and win the title, and then he lost. And I don't think he was ever the same after that, and he finally beat Roode several months later at Bound for Glory. But they dragged that feud out also way too long. And, he should have gotten the title at the Lockdown pay-per-view. So, yeah, that was definitely a mistake, not giving him the title there and at least giving him a decent run with it. So, I would say that they did drop the ball with him. All right, that'll do it for NoDQ&A video. I'm heading out, so I'll see you guys next time for another edition of NoDQ&A video.